So, for the first time, we will be actually covering something from the Daily Express. And oh boy, is this a doozy. This is an absolute doozy of a piece, more specifically because it has been written by Penny Mordaunt. Now, for those of you who don't know who she is, she's a Conservative Member of Parliament. She's a junior minister currently, I believe, but she's also the leader of the very, very sort of moderate conservative unionist faction within the Commons. Yet again, another, shall we say, party within the party of the Conservative Party. Again, how many times can you say party in one sentence there? But people and I've said and have floated her name around as one of the possible candidates to replace Boris Johnson. So I think it's really, important to have a look at what she is saying, because I will tell you this now. The only reason this has been done is, first of all, she wants to get her name out there, and obviously putting it out not in the Tory graph, but the Daily Express, essentially trying to rally some of those, shall we say, Boris Johnson supporting shall we say, Tory voters, especially those who might actually be part of the party, who, well, might actually, if she got to the final two, would be who would eventually vote for her. So it is very, very crucial that she has that support when it comes down to that final two voting. So it is of no surprise that we, shall we say, see this. And we are literally about to play Brexit bingo. So, like I say, get out your scorecards, because this hits every single Brexit cliche, every single Tory possible you can think cliche there even is. Indeed, even in the opening headline, it's again a massive cliche. But as always, we'll find out and have some fun and games with this. So, before we do go diving into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a rotation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. So let's head on over to the Daily Express to find out just what is going on here. So, like I say, the title of the article is, quote, "Many doomsters in Britain want Britain to fail because they're also failures." Again, the great, shall we say, conservative doctrine. If you are against us, it just means that don't have alternate ideas, or maybe you can do something better, or are criticizing us because the way we've been running things. No, it's clearly because you're a failure as well. Again, I like this country. I see it has many faults, and I want them to be better. But currently, Penny, the current, shall we say, conservative government doesn't seem to be offering any big ideas to our big problems that we're facing at the moment, namely the cost of living crisis and, of course, the energy crisis that we are facing as well, not to name a myriad of others that we could mention. So let's get into this. What the Prime Minister has called doomsters and gloomsters, so tick that off your scorecard if you're following along, are at it again. Project Fear. Tick that off in your scorecard, so you've got three for three almost straight away. Is getting another outing, and bad times are just around the corner. Yes, because you are the ones who have driven us round this corner. You are the ones in charge. You can't blame anyone else for this mess that you have governed yourself into, but yourselves, and Boris Johnson in particular. We've been through tough times. There are challenges ahead. But all around us, springs reminders that every year and every day brings new beginnings and, of course, new opportunities for us all. Well, do you have any opportunities or any ideas how to solve these crises? She's about to mention the Queen's speech, But even in the Queen's speech, there was no big answers to the big questions of the day. And the Queen's speech signifies the beginning of this new political cycle. It's an opportunity for us all to start again. Start again with what? The Queen's speech was very, very much, as a lot of people have said, throwing red meat towards, again, Tory voters in a hope that they won't abandon them. There's a lot of heavily suggestions that this Queen's speech had been rewritten a number of times, especially post the local elections as well. So anyway, if you want to, quote, believe the narrative, so, okay, there is a exhausted, divided country in decline. We certainly are exhausted, certainly from the Tory government. We are divided along many, many political lines, not just, again, the Leave Remain line, but many different divides in this country. And again, we are very, very much so. It does appear to be in decline. We are seeing, inflation at an all-time high. We are in a cost of living crisis. We are in an energy crisis. There's so many things going on at the moment. Brexit as well, that is just not helping, the government's case for this. And they're responsible for it. The government you are part of, Penny, So anyway, she continues. It is devoid of ideas and has no vision. Ditto its government. I'd agree with that. You certainly didn't put out any good ideas. Anyway, she continues to say, and it just isn't so. Well, do tell me, Penny, because there certainly was not that at the Queen's speech. There are loads of things for good to us. There are loads of things for us to feel good about. Everywhere you look, Britain is waking up after the long and difficult process of Brexit and COVID. Brexit is not over. It is still very, very much an ongoing process. Namely, of course, we're about to probably get into a potential trade war, given how Liz Truss has been handling things very recently, which is incredibly worrying. COVID took the British economy for an absolute loop and is still going to have long-term effects, not just on the British economy, but on the NHS and workers. Again, in that Queen's speech, you gave absolutely no indication that you were going to help in any of these two areas. So again, there was no vision and there was no ideas. Our businesses are resilient and have adapted. Not what they're saying, though, Penny. Our entrepreneurs are creating. Our scientists and engineers and technicians are innovating. These are the wealth creators, and the government's job is to ensure that they can thrive. You certainly haven't done, or again, even offered anything to actually help them in that speech. The Queen's speech contained a trade bill to bring the Australia and New Zealand trade deals into effect. And again, those two things are not going to help the country. They are going to hurt the country, especially those rural farming areas that the Conservatives like Penny Mordaunt should be really concerned about, especially after the showing at those local elections. In the long run, those agreements could increase household wages by £900 million and £200 million, respectively. This is just the start. Again, not true. You are not going to increase household wages by £900 million. Again, I certainly think we need a source on that, Penny, considering that these two trade deals are going to add literally less than 1% to our GDP. That is nothing in the grand scheme of things. And of course, this year, we also hope to have further agreements with the likes of India and complete our access to the ascension of the comprehensive progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, both massive markets. Again, as we've said before, just because you gain access to that particular market also means that India gains access to our market before. And as we've said many, many times. How are you going to convince India, a country that is very, very protectionist, especially with Modi, who promotes a India sufficient strategy? How are you going to convince him to open up India's markets? It certainly looks like so far you haven't convinced him of that, especially of the fact that he is asking for sort of more visas. And obviously, that would mean increased immigration from India. And your conservative base was certainly not happy with that. Just go look at the comments of the Daily Mail article about that when they tried to promote the idea that immigration from India to the UK was a good thing. Certainly, their readers didn't seem to think so. And even the Trans Pacific Partnership, us joining that and us actually getting a benefit, rests on the ideal that you can convince all those countries currently in the Trans Pacific Partnership to change their rules that would benefit a country that is not even in the Pacific. So, as well as boosting trade, the latter will again increase wages. There's no evidence to say actually to support that at the moment, that the current trade deals that you have said would increase wages. Our new agreements with the individual, again, US states, you can't do indeed trade deals with individual US states. Will seek to increase the US procurement opportunities for UK firms. Again, that's not how it works. Equally, we're focused on attracting investment to every part of the UK. By the way, again, tick off two more more things: the trade deal, the Australia trade deal, the New Zealand trade deal, Trans-Pacific Partnership, trade deal with India, trade deal with the US. Again, it's like Brexit bingo all over again. The Confederation of Indian Industry revealed last week that over the last year, Asian companies investing in the UK, and their revenues have soared over to 145,000 people and are now employed by such firms, up on 160,000 people just in 2021. Again, certainly need citation needed on those numbers. But again, employment where? Is it in the UK or is it in India where we might be seeing those jobs go to? This progress again takes hard work, but we must do it to get our economy growing, and that growth will help us tackle the challenges ahead. Again, the idea of, we can grow our economy while completely ignoring the EU market, our closest market where we do most of our trade, doesn't make any sense. Some argue that success can only be handed to you. Oh, hang on, I've skipped a thing. Well, we'll get to that. So this growth will help us tackle the challenges ahead. And quote, the glum buckets point to the cost of living crisis and inflation as the prospect of a major recession. But hand-wringing will not help. Will not help to counter those issues. Focus and application will. Those are serious issues. Again, it's when we go back to 2016, we weren't saying, being doom and gloom. We were going, there is this going to be issue come up when you do Brexit. How are you intending to fix that issue when it comes up? And that issue was portrayed as Project Fear. Penny Mordaunt doing exactly the same now. Oh, cost of living crisis, inflation, don't worry about it. I think people have every right to worry about those problems. Those are some significant problems to worry about. And again, some argue that success can only be handed to you. Who are those people arguing that? That having chosen a new course for our country, we are at the mercy of global tides and winds. We are at the mercy of global tides and winds. And we always sort of have been. That's, Britain does not exist in a vacuum. It exists on the planet Earth, where if something happens in China or America or somewhere else in the country, it could very well easily have knock-on effects, Shock horror. And they are often the same people who argue that good health will follow will follow you without taking personal responsibility. Again, making the personal responsibility argument for problems that they have caused, especially with the cost of living crisis, inflation, Brexit. You certainly aren't taking personal responsibility for those things, Penny. And that we cannot be successful without Brussels. There is an argument to be made in that. Despite, of course, the unilateral success of our vaccine rollout, again, we didn't really need Brussels to be successful in that. And of course, other countries by themselves were very successful in that and even outpaced us on that. This despite the very low unemployment. Again, we might have current low unemployment, but there are hundreds of thousands of jobs out there which are currently going unfulfilled. Just because you have low unemployment doesn't mean you can ignore the mass of job vacancies out there. That is a problem for an economy as well. This despite, again, the record numbers of people that want to come here. I thought that was a bad thing, Penny. That was something that you were telling us in the referendum was a bad thing. Oh, all these European people wanting to come here to the UK. Oh, no. Again, you're seeing a lot of conservative politicians flip from being very anti-immigration to now pro-immigration, which is really, really bizarre. And the right-wing press are trying to follow along with them. But then you see this massive outcry that we saw in the Daily Mail just a couple of weeks ago. It's palpable nonsense. There are plenty of things of us to be proud of. What exactly? What? The daily despair isn't who we are. We also know that success, whether it be national or personal, is not a government's decision. It's something that we all choose, just as we choose collectively. Again, we didn't all choose collectively to leave the EU. In this state of mind, it's a determination that it is a presidium of choice. Again, it wasn't a collective choice to leave the EU. There were a lot of people that said, we don't want to leave the EU, that this is probably going to be a bad decision to leave the EU, to which you just hand waved away and just said, that's not going to be a problem. That's just Project Fear. And of course, other things that the Brexit is going to bring as well. So if you're one of those that believe you can, or you're one of those that believe you can't, then you're probably right on both. What? You're probably right on both counts. It's the same as a country. We believe matters are too many, and that we want us to fail to satisfy their own vanity. That they were right all along. It's not a question of failing. It's the fact that there are these problems in the country and that you are not providing any problems. Penny is constantly saying that we should be proud of something, but what exactly should we be proud of? They seem to, quote, hate our country and want it to fail. Maybe because they have failed themselves. So what? Anyone who criticizes the UK government is just a failure. Again, citation needed, Penny. You hear this from many overeducated underachievers. What? I think being overeducated, or at least gaining education, is quite a good situation to be in. They accuse my government colleagues of stupidity. Given the fact you've got Nadine Dorries in there, that's certainly true. You're seeing the ideas of trying to privatize Channel 4. We've seen the arguments coming from, again, many business sectors about your data reforms. We can go on to the stupidity that you are doing. The current stupidity, of course, the biggest one, of course, threatening to remove the Northern Ireland Protocol and the consequences that would come with that. I think that's quite a stupid move by Liz Truss. Then they say we're wreckers. If we want to, quote, reform the BBC, they equate us protecting our borders with xenophobia. They belittle the opportunities that that removing trade barriers brings. Yeah, you move trade barriers doesn't mean it's entirely good. We've talked about this before about a firm called, what is it, Brompton Bikes, who make folding bikes, who lost their mind a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, worrying about the fact that we were going to be seeing loads of really cheap Chinese bicycles get dumped in the UK because we were getting rid of these, trade laws that prevent dumping. And they were a pro-Brexit company that wanted to see protectionism, because one of the big arguments that many of the Brexiteers make was for a UK protectionist market, but sometimes was also going to be global as well. Those two ideas did not match, One of these things is not like the other. Which one can it be? Leveling up global Britain. You're certainly not fulfilling that leveling up agenda where you talk about all these things you're doing with the global Britain agenda, which completely undermines that. Every UK success story is met with sarcasm and derision. What success stories? You would have spent a better article actually telling people what these success stories were. They hate the modernization and opportunities that the government is bringing. What modernization? What modernization? Forcing, like Jacob Rees-Mogg, I mean, people can have the technology and their ability to work from home, but oh no, that's a bad thing. They've got to go back to the office. Why? If you look at productivity in the UK, for the first time in a long, long time, we've seen productivity take a bump increase because a lot of people have worked from home and have found that it's far better for them productively to now work from home. They don't have to spend 2 hours a day traveling to and from work. It makes it cheaper for them. And of course, they don't seem to understand that. This change is necessary for our nation to succeed. Again, what change exactly? You haven't really put forward any good ideas. You put forward some very, very bad ideas. Almost certainly, again, as we've just mentioned, forcing people back into the office. Certainly one from Jacob Rees-Mogg. Liz Truss's attempts to remove the Northern Ireland Protocol, attempts to sort of change, remove EU regulation, which again makes it harder for UK businesses to do trade with our closest trading partners in the EU. Again, the Australian trade deal that you've done, which is, quote, fantastic, will destroy UK farming. That's not, oh, it might destroy UK farming. It will destroy UK farming because we are going to be flooded over the next couple of years of really cheap, meat imports, which basically UK farmers cannot compete with because their Australian and New Zealand counterparts have lower standards, which allows them to cut so many corners on price. The biggest, UK cattle farm could not even, could not fit, it in the largest Australian cattle farm. The Australian cattle farm dwarfs it in size alone. And yet, oh yeah, it's a good idea to have all these, cheap meat imports while, destroying British farming. Again, destroying rural jobs, which is going to cause, again, another massive knock-on effect. These are problems which you deny there are happening, and then you refuse to come up with any potential solutions to stop that. Again, so remember that despite all their collective misery, Again, it's not misery. We're not being doomer. We are bringing up problems to which you are not providing any solutions to. Spring is happening all around. The world is opening up to many opportunities, but again, according to trade statistics, we have been left behind that opportunity. The Queen's speech is where we look forward again to the days ahead. If there is indeed trouble ahead, then what we do everything we can to minimize it. And again, from the Queen's speech, you have done absolutely nothing to minimize the harm of the trouble that is indeed happening down ahead. Each and every one of us can help by having confidence in who we are and our belief and our values. What exactly? How does that help, Penny? How? How? What? Many of you out there have probably got some bingo going on. Congratulations, because that was certainly a greatest hits from the Brexit campaign. I know, crazy, but yeah, not one success. Again, oh, we've got all these successes. Why didn't you use that opportunity in this article to talk about successes? If you want to, quote unquote, stop people like me being, so doomer about all this, how about you actually tell us about these successes or these ideas that you have to solve these big problems? Again, not one answer in the article to those questions that she raised herself. But that's our current Conservative government for you. All talk, no ideas. And this is a potential successor to Boris Johnson. Certainly, probably from a reputational standard, probably certainly head and shoulders above Boris. But when it comes to sort of ideas and sort of trying to solve the big questions of the day, absolutely no intention to put any forward, any ideas that could seriously solve these problems. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.